everyone, and welcome to the Mishmash Entertainment Podcast. This week we have Matthew.
Nathan.
And Miki.
And this week we were going to start off with talking about Nintendo's mini consoles. Nathan, you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, mostly I just want to vent about how annoying it is that there's only 20 games from the SNES. Like, that's just, I don't know, it's a travesty, I think. A lot of licensing issues.
I don't know exactly which games they couldn't have put on there, but I'm sure there are some classic games. Like, one of the biggest problems for Crash Bandicoot was, for a long time, was that Crash is actually owned by Ubisoft, so Sony couldn't release a new Crash Bandicoot game. Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things if you're ever wondering why a new game hasn't come out, it's either because the last one didn't sell very well. That's usually the reason. Maybe the company doesn't want to make it anymore, or usually it's some kind of stupid licensing disagreement where they're just like, we're not doing that.
Right. I mean, even still with a licensing issue, I still feel like 20 games is just, I feel like they could do better.
Yeah, but they also know people spend, the $70-$80 on 20 games because Nintendo.
Right. Yeah.
It's also a lot smaller, and you can play them on, like, a new LED, LCD monitor.
Yeah, that's true. But my thing is, like, with digital storage the way it is, you could probably fit every single Super Nintendo game on something like that small.
That's not a problem. I mean, I have a flash drive that's like that big, that is a gig of space, and you could fit every...
That's that big.
That
for our audio listeners,
it's about 2 inches.
That big.
Yeah. Don't mind me, I know
Did that
what
on
I'm
the
doing.
last episode,
the Super Nintendo games are probably, only like 50 kilobytes or 100 kilobytes or something? It's something small like that,
You'd probably end up with a couple megabytes per game.
I would imagine
for Super Nintendo.
that whatever's on it could fit on a floppy. Right?
Maybe. I don't know.
That might be pushing it.
I'm sure, like, some
really?
of the...
I have no idea.
Like, for Super Nintendo,
Floppies
like,
were
I'm sure
before
some of
me.
the RPGs were bigger than that, right? And
All right, so I just pulled up the list of the games. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
This is really sad. I'm really disappointed in this list. It's just like a mishmash of everything. It's a mishmash of everything. We got Contra 3, Donkey Kong Country, Final Fantasy VI, F-Zero, Kirby Superstar, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Star Fox 2, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, Super Mario World 2, and Super Metroid. That's it.
Super Mario RPG is awesome because that's kind of it's an expensive game nowadays, isn't it? A lot of those are.
Hang on.
Whoa.
I forgot 5. We also have Earthbound, Kirby's Dream Course, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania, and Super Punch-Out!
I mean, that is a pretty good lineup of games, I'm not going to lie.
It's a solid lineup, but it's 20 games for $80 that came out 2 decades ago.
Yeah, it also seems like a lot of random games.
You mentioned Donkey Kong Country. Are all 3 of them there?
No, just one. Just the first one. Which is really bad because the Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 are really good games.
2 is my favorite. That's awesome.
I know. I really liked 2, and 3 was also a great game. Like, I don't think I could really pick between those two, but Donkey Kong Country 1 was definitely not my favorite.
Yeah, I was probably never going to get the console in the first place because I'm not much of a platformer gamer. And that's what Super Nintendo is known for. It was that and its RPGs.
Yeah.
And that does have a fair number of RPGs, at least. That's not really my area of interest.
I also don't know if you guys have played it, but Super Punch-Out! Have you guys played Super Punch-Out!?
Yeah.
I think so.
It's not a very good game.
No.
I haven't. It's really disappointing.
Yeah.
Street Fighter's much better.
Yeah. I mean, Super Punch-Out! Is a different game from Street Fighter.
Kind of, but
I mean, well, fair. But my biggest problem with everything Nintendo puts out, they just refuse to actually make enough for the audience. Like, my buddy Dan, he's been on the podcast once before. We'll probably have him on
Twice.
at some point. Yeah, twice, that's right. He always defends this as saying there's some kind of deal. I don't know if this is true. I've never bothered to look it up. Where when Nintendo first got reintroduced into the market in North America after the huge crash from Atari, they had to make a deal where they would buy back any unbought stock of product that didn't move through the stores just so people would stock the Nintendo. I don't know if that's true. Look that up yourselves. I should have before I came to this, but I wasn't expecting to talk about this today, so I didn't. But even if that's the case, they are so chronically under
not
producing
Yeah.
their products, whether it be amiibos or these mini consoles or like the Nintendo Switch has no stock anywhere. I don't know if that's still true. I don't look for it because I'm poor and I can't afford one right now. But like that was a problem for a really long time.
It really was. Yeah.
Could not find a Switch.
I think you can get them nowadays, but I expect with the Mario Odyssey coming out next month, I think, in October.
Yeah.
I can kind of expect that they're going to run out again.
Yeah.
I remember it was maybe last month or the month before. One of our friends was going to get a Switch, and she looked for about 2 months, constantly like calling video game stores, being like, "Hey, do you have a Switch? Do you have a Switch? Do you have a Switch?" And they're always like, "No, we don't have a Switch. Sorry." For like 2 months, she did that. So I'm actually really glad that we ended up pre-ordering one.
Yeah.
Because we didn't, I was like, well, there's nothing to play on it, and it's like a good $500.
Yeah.
So I was like, we'll just wait a couple of months. I'm so glad we did not wait a couple of months now.
Or you could pay a scalper $200 more.
Yeah, not going to happen.
That is optimistic right there. An extra $200.
Yeah.
That's like, a steal if you
get
it
like
off a
the
scalper.
lowest bump I think I saw. Yeah.
So.
I got to say though, I still can't justify the console until there's more than one big solid game out for it. Like Breath of the Wild looks fantastic.
It was fantastic.
I thought you barely played it.
What?
Didn't you barely play?
I watched Sean play a lot of it.
Okay.
Pretty much everything he played I watched, and then I played a little bit myself.
Right.
I just don't have motivation to play games all by myself sometimes.
Fair enough.
They did release, I know they re-released the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Edition with all the extra tracks and whatnot, and they fixed battle mode, because the Mario Kart 8 from the Wii U, the battle mode was a joke. Like, remember in the earlier Mario Kart games how battle mode had its own arena?
Yeah.
It's like this square circle arena you drive around. In Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U, you were literally just driving on a normal track, and you could shoot each other. Like,
I can't say I really remember.
You could turn around and go back. Well, no, because it was so horrible. It was like just going around a track with friends and like until you knocked the balloons off. They didn't even have their own arenas.
Wow.
Now, apparently they've fixed that for the Switch version, but I just can't. I put so much time into the Wii U Mario Kart 8, I can't justify buying it again, even for that. For the
one of my friends has Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Switch, and he comes over from time to time, and we'll just play Mario Kart, and it's honestly a lot of fun, but it's all the same tracks. And
I kind of liked that. Well, half. It's like there's 30. What is there? 32 tracks or 50 now? I can't remember.
There's a lot.
It's like 48, and I think
There's
half of them are new, half of them are remakes. Because what they would do, I think, is whenever they'd have 1 cup of new tracks, 1 cup of remakes. So I think it's roughly half and half. Yeah.
Either way, it's all tracks that we've pretty much seen before. I don't think they actually brought out any new ones for Deluxe.
Oh, no, Deluxe I think was just all the DLC from the original for the Wii U, I think.
Oh, yeah, well, they had all the DLC, but we played it, and it's a lot of fun. They added a couple new items, and you can now hold 2 items instead of just one, which is freaking great. Yeah. And the tracks for battle mode, or the maps, are awesome. They actually brought back some of them from, like, the Super Nintendo and the 64. So, like, the one that's like a cube, and it's got the 4 different colors.
Oh, the 3 layers that you
Yeah,
drive
I'm
up?
pretty sure that's one of them.
That's awesome.
I'm not 100%, but I remember being like, oh my god, I remember this. I played it so much.
Did they bring back, like, the donut ring with the lava in the center?
I can't remember, honestly.
That was one of my favorites, too.
Yeah. It's been a while since I played the battle mode, but, but at the same time, I can't justify paying $80 for it either, especially since we bought the DLC on the Wii U.
Well, what's going to do it for me, probably for the Switch, is Mario Odyssey. It's like a Mario, but kind of in the style of Mario 64, which you haven't really seen. Like, I think Mario Galaxy was pretty good and kind of similar like that, but I think Odyssey is going to be fantastic, and that'll probably be what will trigger me to buy the Switch.
But Dan, he's the Nintendo guy now. Yeah. He's saying that he's looking forward to it because it's the first one since Sunshine that looks like Mario Sunshine, with the hub world and all this other stuff where you can go to other places and collect those other things. And I think Galaxy was something like that. I'm not a Mario player. I'm not a platformer. This isn't my genre. It's not what I play.
Right.
But it looks interesting. I would play it at a friend's place. I probably won't buy it myself.
I've also heard that it has like 2D aspects. Where like you go in, you're playing the game in 3D, like your regular Mario games now, and it'll have like sort of a mini game, but it's part of the actual game. So like you go into this world and you have to do this task to go forward or something stupid like that. But it's 2D Mario.
Okay.
That you have to play.
I think I've seen that. Yeah,
you just
like go flat on the wall and like, jump up. Yeah, I've seen that.
It might just
from
be
a Zelda game. That was done in one of the handheld Zelda games. It was top down, or it was 2D in both two planes, but same deal.
Right.
Still cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
Still cool.
But yeah, I remember what I was going to say. This is something that happened fairly recently that we usually avoid, but I'm talking about it anyway. There was a Nintendo Direct recently where they had tagged Smash Bros. In it, so I was excited. I sat through the entire thing. They tagged Smash Bros. Because during a Metroid Prime thing, they said Metroid fans and Smash Bros. Fans alike, and that was the only mention of Smash Bros. The entire thing.
Oh no.
That was... I was watching it with Dan.
I mean, they're gonna have another Smash.
They will
on the Switch.
But I don't watch Nintendo Directs because I will get tidbits that I'm interested in from either Reddit or I'll hear about it from a friend.
Oh yeah.
Things like that. I don't watch Nintendo Direct generally, but they tricked me. They tricked me, the bastards.
They tricked you. Shame on them. What were they thinking?
Just more shady Nintendo. Rah rah. Anyway. That's enough of that.
Have you guys seen it's another new Mario game that's coming out? Mario and Rabbids. I think it may have actually already come out.
Yeah, it did.
Isn't that like a tactics style game?
Yes.
It's XCOM mixed with Mario and Rabbids, and I don't know why I want it so much.
Why did the Rabbids come back? Like, do you remember those from the Wii games?
Mm-hmm, I do.
I remember them being... I thought they were the stupidest things.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? Yeah. This is... Who... Why? Just why? They were ridiculous.
Why is Rabbids mixing with Mario, and why did they mix both of those things with XCOM? That's what I want to know, because I love me some XCOM. I'm awful at it. Still haven't bought XCOM 2 because I'm poor, but I'm going to get to it eventually. But the game looks good. It's just so silly, and it's bright, and it's fun, and it looks like it's got good depth to the gameplay. And
I mean, I've heard that it's been a good game to play, from people who got to play it. I at some convention they had it at it just to test it.
I mean, they had it at E3 and they had it at Gamescom, I think.
Maybe it was E3. I'm not sure, but I heard somebody got to play it at one of those things, and he said it was a pretty good game, and he was excited to buy it. I was like, but the Rabbids, I can't get over Rabbids. Like,
they're dumb.
of all of the character choices you could have possibly had, why Rabbids?
Yeah, and then you've got Rabbid versions of all the characters, like Rabbid Peach, who constantly takes selfies, and Rabbid Mario, or Mario, if you're one of those people. That insists that people pronounce the name one way or the other. But moving on from Nintendo, I guess, something else we could talk about is, this never gets into internet flame wars, console or PC?
Both for me, honestly. I bought a PS4 not too long ago.
Yeah.
Mostly for the exclusives. Like, I never really saw myself as someone who really needed a console.
Yeah.
My ex and I had an Xbox One when I moved out. I kind of just was like, I mean, my PC gives me everything I need. PC and Wii U, between that, I can play everything I want to play.
Yeah.
But then what happened was the exclusives just kind of kept building up. Right?
Yeah.
I really wanted to play the Uncharted games, The Last of Us, Bloodborne, and Horizon. I'm like, that's enough. That's enough to get a PS4 for sure.
I really want to get Horizon, and I still haven't.
I actually haven't bought it yet. It was one of the reasons I bought a PS4, but I didn't buy it yet. I'm waiting for it to kind of go down in price, and it should soon. Looks fantastic, though.
Yeah.
I've always been somebody who plays my game on consoles because I didn't really get my own computer until I was like 15.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous like that. At least nothing that could play a video game.
Yeah.
So I've always had my games on consoles, and I remember I had a PS2 for the longest time. I was playing my PS2 well into the PS3's life.
Oh, yeah.
And there was no way I was going to get a PS3. It just wasn't happening. But I remember, this is a ridiculous story. I used to go to this church group, like a youth group sort of, like night where you played with friends and stuff, but there was a little bit of Jesus mixed in.
Yeah.
And they had this thing that went on for a few months where every time you went to youth group or to church, you would get your name put in a ballot for an Xbox 360.
Oh, really?
So if you can't tell where this is going, I went to youth group. I didn't go to church. I only went to youth group, but I pretty much went every week for the entire period that they were doing it, just because I always did anyways.
Yeah.
So I got my name put in that ballot many times, along with a number of other people, maybe like 30 other people. The only catch was, to win it, you had to go to church just once.
Okay.
But you had to go. So I went. And when they were pulling the name after their regular churchy stuff, the pastor laughed And he said, "Oh, it's you, it's Miki." And I was like, "What?" And he laughed because he knew I was never going to go to church.
Yeah.
But that was the whole draw to it.
Yeah.
Go to church once, you'll like it. Nope, I got an Xbox 360, and it had Kinect, and it had a couple of games with it, and I never went back.
Nice.
I went to a youth group,
Yeah.
but I never went to church. But that was how I got my first console after the PS2.
Nice.
And then I liked it so much because it could play all the newer games, and I liked that.
Yeah.
I had more options to choose from. And then I got an Xbox One when that came out for Christmas. But then I started playing games online recently on the computer. So I've been playing a lot of PC games, and I'm getting a new computer so I can play more PC games because I have some games that I can't play. But I don't picture myself getting like a PS4, PS5,
Yeah.
or whatever the new Xbox console is.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we have every Nintendo console,
Yeah.
at least released in North America, except for the Virtual Boy.
Fair enough, yeah. I wouldn't expect you to have that garbage heap.
But yeah, we have everything from the NES to the Switch, so
I've been calling things garbage heaps and garbage piles a lot between this and the last podcast.
I guess so.
But I'm very heavily PC. My consoles exist for when I have people over on very rare occasions, so that we have something to do, like either watch Netflix or play video games, or I don't have cable, so...
Yeah, me neither. And I have to say my Xbox has turned into a Netflix machine.
Yeah.
Just pretty pathetic.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, for me, I mean, I'm going to have a good computer anyway, just because I like having a computer that, like, my computer starts up immediately, because I've got a solid-state hard drive, and I can use the internet. I've got my screen. I can sit right next to my screen and watch things that way, and all this other stuff. And, of course, gaming's very important to me. I've been gaming since I was 5 or 6 years old, and I can just run my games better on my PC than you can on a console. Like, I remember I got a PS4 and then bought Fallout 4 not too long afterwards, and that game doesn't run well on consoles. It's not awful, but it will chug at random points. You'll lose random frames, and it gets very choppy. So if I'm going to spend $80 on a game, I want it to be the best experience I can have with that game.
Yeah, I think consoles pretty much from the moment they're released are running on obsolete hardware.
They
It's just kind of the nature of what a console is.
I mean, they're trying to sell you something for generally under $600. Usually they aim for below $500.
Right.
And you can't get a top-of-the-line computer for $500.
Your video card alone will
barely,
cost you that.
Yeah, you can barely get a laptop for $500
I mean,
now.
My video card, the GTX 970, which
That's
is
what I've got, yeah.
It's a good card, but that's like a $350 card. So
Right.
like it's a huge chunk, and then you still need a good processor, and then you need to get the RAM and everything else that comes with a computer, your power supply, your monitor, your tower case. And I've got water cooling in mine, so that was another expense that I didn't really need.
It's hard to get anything under really $1,000 that'll run.
You can probably build something for like $800 to $900 that will
Right.
run things slightly better than a console,
Right.
but not by much. You might as well just get a console, because then you won't run into problems which you apparently can with computers. I've never run into work. A game just won't run, and then you have to troubleshoot and find out how to get it to work again.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not true. I had that happen once, but it was with an old game, and it's called Risk of Rain. It's one of my favorite little indie games.
Oh, yeah. I played that.
It's a lot of fun. The game wouldn't work. I just had to go in and make it so that it didn't run in full screen, so my game would run again, and then I could play again. Also trying to get Fallout 3 to work on Windows, the current Windows version.
Windows 10.
Yeah. I just blanked. But yeah, you have to disable some things in the INI file, I think, to make Fallout 3 actually run properly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess there's a little bit of a learning curve, I guess, for PC gaming. But like,
Not if it's modern. Not if it's a modern
Right.
game. And the things like PS4 is not backwards compatible at all, so you just can't play those old games unless they re-release it, in
Yeah.
which case you could get the re-released version on PC and still not have to worry about learning that stuff.
That's annoying. Yeah, well, the PS4 actually has this subscription service now.
Yes.
Can't remember what it's called, but you pay like a monthly fee and you can play this huge library of PS3 games.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a backwards compatibility, but you have to.
But it's not, because I already own a bunch of those
Yeah,
games.
exactly.
I
you
own
have
pretty
to
much
pay
all
more money just to play them. Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much own all the PS3 games I have. The biggest chunk of my video game collection that isn't on my computer, because I think I've said it before, I've got 284 games on there.
It's a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, are on my PS3. Now, I don't know if you were here when we talked about that. Most of my games come from Humble Bundles and sales where I got them for cheap. It's still a lot of fun.
And no one wants to rebuy that
no.
to play it on a new console.
No. Like I've got like 30 or 40 PS3 games probably.
Right.
So I don't want to have to go through and repurchase those. Some of those I wouldn't because they're not very good. Sometimes it happens when you buy a game. But
pretty big selling point for the Xbox One, though, really. I remember, like, when I was using the Xbox One, it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
They kind of slowly released which ones were backwards compatible.
It's so weird to me that they wouldn't just give you backwards compatibility. Why did they have to do it slowly?
They also didn't release backwards compatibility for all games.
Yeah.
It's like a select 65 games.
Right.
I kind of get why they don't do full backwards compatibility, but if you're going to have backwards compatibility, why slow release of only certain titles? And it's one of those things where I've read up on it, and the reason they don't do backwards compatibility is because people, even though I'd love it, most people wouldn't care. They either have their old console or they're done with those games.
Yeah.
Like when they go back and they look to see because of course your console tracks everything you do now and sends it back to whichever company owns it. People don't spend their time in old games. They just don't. It's not a thing.
That's probably a lot of work to make emulators. I've heard it's very resource heavy.
That's the thing. It's harder to run it on new hardware unless you design the hardware to also be able to run the old things, which then hampers your ability to run new games.
Right.
I also remember with a lot of game stores, they'll have deals where you can bring in the old console and then get a newer one for a reduced price.
Yeah, that's usually not worth it, but yeah.
Usually it's not, but I find it more not worth it because once you get rid of that console, what are you going to do with all the games if the console's not backwards compatible? They're garbage at this point.
Yeah, I still have my PlayStation 1.
I still have an Xbox 360. I haven't turned it on in a couple of years, but I still have it.
Yeah, I have my... Actually, no, I think my PS1 broke, but I have my PS2... my PS2, my PS3, and my PS4 all on a shelf still hooked.
And most of the PS3s are backwards compatible all the way to PS1, right?
They won't play PS2 games. They will play PS1 games.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. I don't know. The original PlayStation 3s were backwards compatible all the way. I've got a PlayStation 3 Slim, I think. Or maybe it's the other way around.
That's it. No, it's the PS3 Fats, the really thick ones that are like 3 inches thick and weird curves.
Yeah.
Kind of remind me of Spider-Man. Don't ask why. I don't know.
All right. Neat. That's straight. Oh, that's something I'm looking forward to. The new Spider-Man game coming out for PlayStation.
Oh, a good Spider-Man open world game? Yeah. It looks so good.
Assuming they fix some of the things. It's the last thing I saw. It's still a bit away from release, but it looked a bit janky, some of the animations they showed. So I'm like, please smooth those out. They didn't look great. But if it's open world, like I remember playing Spider-Man 2, the movie, I think it was.
I think that was the last good one, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's enough about that. Did we want to talk about Extra Life now?
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about Extra Life. So you guys can enlighten me.
Yeah.
And as well as anybody else who doesn't know what we're talking about now. So Extra Life is a charity event. And it's on November 4th, I believe, this year. It's a Saturday, so the first Saturday in November.
It is November 4th. I checked last time I questioned you about if it was the 4th or the 5th. It is the 4th.
Perfect. Okay. So, essentially with Extra Life, you play games for however long you feel like doing. It doesn't even have to be on their game day, but their game day is November 4th, so that's when I'm going to do it, at least with the Rooster Teeth community and some of the podcast people, most of the podcast people. And you raise money for a charity called, I think they're calling their charity Extra Life, but it goes towards the Children's Miracle Network hospitals.
Yeah. Right.
So you get to pick whichever one you want to support, which is my favorite part.
Yeah.
So we can still be in the Rooster Teeth team, which is what we did last year. So our money sort of kind of went into their big number.
Yeah.
But it went to the hospital that we chose, which was the IWK, which is our local children's hospital.
Yeah. Right.
Which is great. So now they did this last year. They're doing it again this year. And I kind of hate them for it, but it's okay. So November 4th is, what do you call those days? It's the winter solstice, so the time goes back.
Oh, yeah.
Or time goes back.
Yeah.
So instead of your regular 24-hour 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. stream, I guess it's still going from 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., but there's an extra hour mixed in at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's instead of 24 hours, it's 25 hours.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Got that 25-hour stream to look forward to.
Yeah, so learning from last year, we're going to have to pay attention to like a clock on a phone that will automatically change.
Yeah.
Because the computer last year didn't automatically change.
Oh.
So it was 1:30 on our computers when we got the notification like, hey, you guys will be streamed on the Rooster Teeth stuff.
Yeah.
And we were like, what do you mean it's 1:30? We're not doing till 3. It was 2:30.
Yikes.
So we're going to have to pay attention to that. But this year we're going to have a number of people on instead of just me and a friend. It's going to be a group of maybe 5 or 6 people, I think, is what we're up to.
Nice.
And we're going to play lots of games, lots of multiplayer, probably a couple single player.
Yeah.
We'll also have a Vive to play virtual reality games, which is really exciting.
Sweet.
And we'll have stretch goals this year.
Yeah, stretch goals.
Really excited for stretch goals.
That is
So essentially what a stretch goal is, for those who don't know, is when you raise a certain amount of money, you get like a rewards sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we're thinking our overall goal is 200, which is essentially what we raised last year. I think it was 140. So our goal this year is 200.
Yeah.
So at 250, Matt here volunteered to shave his head.
And I will do it on stream, which will be extra fun for
Yes,
everybody.
yes, of course, everything will be
I do want to clarify, first thing I'm going to do is snip it off in a ponytail, because the hair will then be donated to some kind of charity organization. I don't know which one yet, because I don't know for sure that my hair's coming off. And everyone out there who hasn't seen me, which I assume is pretty much all of our listeners, my hair I'm 6 feet tall, my hair goes just below my shoulder blades.
So that'll be nice. And for those who regularly listen to the podcast, DJ has also offered to, at $500, wax his chest.
That poor man. He's real hairy.
He's brave, that's for sure. He's also hoping that we don't reach $500.
He sure is, but that's why we gotta prove him wrong. If only a quarter of you each donate $1, we could raise that $500.
We could do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So that would be great. It might be a good idea if you guys would like to give us some ideas. Give us ideas on games, things to do, stretch goals, or anything else.
And there's something else we're considering doing. Rooster Teeth does a thing where every time someone donates $1,337, they will spin a wheel, and they will have to do whatever's on that wheel. Now, we're not going to get any donations of that size.
Not even close.
So, our number is going to be, every time we get $13.37 in a donation, we will spin a wheel, and it'll have some kind of punishment or thing that'll make us have to do.
That's another good idea for people to suggest, too, is things to put on the wheel.
Yes,
absolutely.
We're going to need a good number of things to put on that wheel.
Yeah.
Because as we go through these things, because $13 is not a big number.
Yeah. That's also why it won't have, it probably won't have things like baby birding shots, which was really gross on the last Extra Life stream. Because $13 is far too easy to get for that to be a thing.
So it'll have to be small things, but easy things.
Yeah, like push-ups, assuming we're not dying. Of course, we can just take them off and replace them with things that aren't.
Or they could be like play a certain game.
Yeah.
Or last year we played most of our games 2-player, even if they're not supposed to be 2-player.
Yeah.
So my friend took the mouse and I would take the keyboard.
Nice.
And we'd play games like Surgeon Simulator.
Yeah.
Or another game called Manual Samuel, which is meant to be 2-player, but you control like walking, breathing, holding things with your arms, standing up straight, blinking.
Yikes.
Things like those. So we could also have incentives to go towards games like that.
It could also be like someone has to play a game with a handicap while the other people are not handicapped. Things like that.
Yeah.
Like has to have their thumb tied, like taped to their palm, and they can't use their thumb. Things like that.
Dark Souls challenge run. It's one of my favorite things to watch.
I can't even play Dark Souls normally. I'm so bad at those games.
I can't say I've ever played Dark Souls. That would be very bad.
Yeah.
But maybe it'd be interesting to some people. Who knows? Our failures last year were apparently incredibly interesting, and people made their own donation incentives.
Nice. What did they do?
So we played this game called Ibanob, and we were beyond overtired. It's a puzzle game. So we couldn't figure out for the life of us what we were supposed to do, how we were supposed to get there, or anything. So we got to this level, and we were so stuck. We had been on it for probably 10 minutes.
Yikes.
And this was while we were being streamed by Rooster Teeth.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a good number of people watching. And so people in our Twitch chat started saying, if you get past this level, I will donate X number of dollars.
Nice.
So eventually we did, and lucky for us, they donated X number of dollars.
Cool.
So
awesome.
if you guys can make ideas like that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But preferably beforehand.
Yeah.
So you can give us those ideas, and you can send them to our email, which is rtns@mmepodcast.com, or you could also tweet them to us with hashtag #MMEpodcast.
Right, and we also have our YouTube,
which is Nova Scotia Rooster Teeth Community. We have the SoundCloud, which is the same, and the iTunes, of course, RT Nova Scotia.
and you can always leave us comments. Ratings are always appreciated on iTunes.
Ratings,
likes.
reviews, comments, likes, anything like that. And for when the time comes, our extra live stream will be on Twitch, which is RT_Nova Scotia. It's for the kids.
Yeah, for
Do it for the
Somebody
kids.
please think of the children.
Yeah. I think that's enough from us.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm Miki.
Nathan.
And I'm Matt.